ChatGPT release. GPT-5.5 just dropped. ChatGPT, OpenAI released things today. We're going to be looking into 5.5, what's good about it, what's not so good about it, what this means for you, even if you are not a coder, especially if you are not a coder, and why you should be excited about this release. I understand the releases are relentless. There is something new every single week. I want to detach ourselves from that and see the general direction that everything is going on, rather than worrying about each and every single iteration. This one is important, and I'm going to be showing you why. So, what we're going to be looking at today is harnesses. New models are, every single week we are getting a new model. We're getting 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 over on the Opus side, and we have 5.4. We didn't have 5.3 that long ago on ChatGPT, so it's very easy to stop caring about any of this. What you should be paying attention to are the harnesses, what these models are attached to. And what they've done with ChatGPT 5.5 is a model that is very good at working within harnesses, and I'm going to be showing you what it can work with. But preview, it is Codex, it is OpenClaw, and they're pushing out some really cool things in the near future. So let's hop in. We are now talking about harnesses. So lots of people are talking about 5.5, they're talking about 4.7 Opus, the Anthropic model, in terms of how good they are at coding. For a lot of you though, if you are not a coder, you might think this is not important. Why should you care if it is good at writing code? That's not what you do on the day-to-day basis. The thing is, anything that gets good at coding will be good at other jobs. It'll be good at workflows. And what we are doing, we are moving from using these tools for coding and creating products to use them in our day-to-day workflows. The same skills that are built and learnt through coding are transferable. So everything that has been going on over the last year in agentic coding in this particular space is transferring now over to knowledge work. If you are a white collar worker, if most of your work is sitting at a computer, then the AI is now very good at what you do. You're going to be able to use it, and yes, it's going to be able to take your job moving forward. A lot of people are missing because they're focusing too much on the coding benchmarks, the coding workflows, not realizing that all of this stuff is transferable over into knowledge work. And that's what they're doing with 5.5. That is the goal of 5.5. The subtitle here is Introducing GPT 5.5. Subtitle is A New Class of Intelligence for Real Work. This is their target. They're bringing all of these tools, all of these agentic harnesses into day-to-day office work, into day-to-day knowledge work. This is the focus of this whole press release. We're releasing GPT 5.5, our smartest and most intuitive to use model yet, and the next step towards a new way of getting work done on a computer. They're not talking about coding, they're talking about all work. GPT 5.5 understands what you're trying to do faster and will carry out more of the work itself. It excels at writing and debugging code. Sure, that's the primary usage. Researching online, analyzing data, creating documents and spreadsheets, operating software, and moving across tools until a task is finished. This is knowledge work. This is what most of us do on a daily basis. We are moving things around from documents into Excel sheets and then telling people on Slack what's being done. This is what this model is apparently very good at. And based on the agentic benchmarks, it is very good at. You can give GPT 5.5 a messy, multi-part task and trust it to plan, use tools, check its work, navigate through ambiguity, and keep going. Now, I've talked about this previously. There have been 4, according to Ethan Mollick, big shifts in artificial intelligence. The most recent one was in December 2025. It is us moving from chatting to an AI, using it as a chatbot, to actually starting to have the AI do work for us. That is where we are right now. Lots of people have not realized this yet, and they're still just chatting to ChatGPT. They're still just chatting to Claude, and they don't realize that it is now very good at doing the tasks they want it to do. They don't need to discuss the task. They can just give it to the AI. Now, the coders, the people who have been building products, building websites, etc., know this already because we've been using agentic tools for the last 6 months or a year plus. It's coming into the workplace. 5.5 is an incredibly aggressive push into that area. There are a number of different ways to get into 5.5. The simplest way is inside of ChatGPT. It looks a bit confusing because you won't see it. You're not going to see the number up here anymore. Instead, if you click this drop down, you have Instant, Thinking, and Pro. It's not clear at all, but Thinking is 5.5, Pro is 5.5, Instant is 5.3. If you click on configure inside of ChatGPT, you'll actually be able to see the numbers. If you don't click configure, you won't be able to see. This is a good way to check whether you are using 5.5. They're trying to do what they did with 5.0 or just 5, GPT-5, where they're taking a lot of the thinking out of what model to use. They're just taking it away from us. So they've hidden it away inside of configure. So if you go into configure, you can choose the different models. So you can actually put it on 5.4, and that would downgrade Pro and Thinking to 5.4, maybe like 5.4. Or you can put them all the way back to 4.5, 5.2, or even 03, which is a strange choice. If you go for latest, you're going to get 5.5 on Pro, you're going to get 5.5 on Thinking, and then you're going to get 5.3 on Instant. Don't know why they're not using 5.4. Interesting shift there. If you click on Thinking or Pro, then underneath you can set the effort. In Thinking, you can do the drop down and move it to heavy. On Pro, you can go from standard and extended. They've hidden this away a little bit because they want people using the defaults, because that uses less tokens, costs them less money. Do be aware that it is slightly hidden. You can also change Thinking juice here in the drop down as well. So that's the way for you to check. It is rolling out now. I am currently in the EU, and I have another device which is routed through to the UK, and in both locations, EU and UK, it is released. I heard from someone in Canada that they had not got it yet. It probably will be with you if you don't have it yet. So this is the first way to get to it. It's just through your normal ChatGPT app, through the chat on your phone or on your desktop. Nice and simple. The other way is going to be through Codex. Now, Codex, even if you're not a coder, I highly recommend you trying it out. Codex is their equivalent of Claude Code, but unlike Claude Code, it is available in the free plan, so there's nothing really stopping you from trying it out. They also have generous usage on the $20 a month plan, so if you're on a $20 a month ChatGPT plan, you already have access to a lot of Codex, unlike Claude Code, which on the $20 a month plan, realistically, you're not going to get much done. And, as I've covered earlier in the week, they're looking to get rid of it entirely on the $20 a month plan. So this is the second place where you can find 5.5. There's also an updated Codex model, and you can select your particular model inside of Codex. And then the third way is inside of the API. If you're a developer, you know how to do that already. If you're not a developer, leave that alone for now and experiment with it in ChatGPT and in Codex. I'll probably do a full rundown of Codex. I do have a YouTube video on it, a beginner's guide. If you head over to YouTube, there's a 20-minute video walking you through Codex, but I think it needs an update. I'll do another one after this 5.5 update. So you should already have it. Now, what we're doing with 5.5 and what we're doing with AI in general is we are moving from chatting to our chatbot. Every night before I go to bed, I will set Claude Code up with several tasks. I will set Codex up with several tasks. Last night, for example, I gave Claude Code a 64-page PDF that my business partner had sent to me that had a list of changes for a sales page that we're making. And it was fully annotated. It annotated all the sales pages. It added notes. It added images and where to pull them from. I gave that 64-page PDF over to Claude Code and said, I want you to plan, work through all of this, and then implement everything that's been said inside of this document. And then you're going to go back and check against the original document, check your changes, see if you've actually made all of the changes. If you have not, you're going to go ahead and do the remaining changes. Then you're going to check against the original document and continue doing that until you are happy to deliver to me in the morning the results of your work. So I woke up this morning and it had worked for about 3 hours on this task. It had completed the task, sent me through a report, which I was able to send to my business partner. That means I was getting an additional 2 or 3 hours of work, or something that would have taken days, done whilst I was sleeping. That was one task that I had running last night. I had several in Codex and I had 2 or 3 more in Claude Code as well. That is where we are moving. Picking up your telephone to ask ChatGPT, hey, how do I make a vegan lasagna? That is fine, but that is very much like using AI as a Google replacement. It's a basic level. We can do a huge amount more. And as these agents get better, as the harnesses get better, the length of the tasks, the complexity of the tasks increases and the amount of supervision required decreases. So this is the really exciting stuff that's happening in AI right now. And if you are not playing around with it yet, I highly recommend getting a copy of Codex. It's totally free. and it uses your existing ChatGPT subscription. You can download it for Mac or Windows and starting to play around with that and check out the YouTube video, which talks about how to actually get started. This kind of stuff might look intimidating because it's code, but at its base, what you are doing is using a chat window. It is a chat-based interface, but it can do stuff for you. You can give it work projects, talk to it about your personal productivity, talk to it about your health, and it will help you set up exercise systems and tracking systems. It can implement and build and create and organize for you in a way that basic ChatGPT, basic Claude does not. So I highly recommend starting to play around with these, especially now that 5.5 is very good at agentic tasks. Agents, this is how they work. They are able to run continuous execution. So when I sit down to chat with an AI, I am basically asking it a question. It will go off, do some research and respond to me and give me some text. That's fine, but it's a base level way of working. What I really wanted to do is to go off, do some research, do some preliminary work, look at its own work, decide whether or not it has done a good job or if there's any problems. Maybe it finds some errors. Maybe it tries to build an application for me and it finds that it doesn't compile properly. It does all of that testing for me, then goes off and fixes, improves, and then comes back to me eventually after potentially multiple iterations, multiple cycles with a version that is fit. So in the same way that if I gave a task to an employee, I said, hey, I want you to put together this brochure. Let's say they came back to me like 4 minutes later and they're like, here, I've got the first draft of the brochure and there's no content in it. Maybe they've downloaded a template and they've stuck our company name on it. I would, to the employee, be like, this is shit. What are you doing? Go away and do the task properly, then come back to me when you are ready. It's the same with agents. They won't just give you the first answer, but they will go away, complete the work, and then come back to you when they think they have completed that task to your standard. So they can keep track of a goal over a long time. For example, I gave a 64-page feedback PDF to my agent last night. It was able to break that down into tasks, subtasks. It was able to prioritize them and then work through them one by one, remembering what it had to deal with. It had made a document that had a checklist for it. It will use tools. So instead of it just being chat, it's able to connect to the internet. It can also connect to Google Drive. It can connect to Notion. It can connect to your CRM. If you've got the right MCPs in place, it can connect to Google Ads. It can connect to Meta Ads. Anything you want to connect it to, now you can. So it's becoming like an employee that has access to these different systems. Obviously, you need to set up privacy, you need to set up security, but it's able to pull data and do work on these systems. So very important tooling. The large language model itself is getting increasingly less important, and I'll talk about this when we talk about harnesses in a moment. It is what it can do that matters. Then it's going to check the work. So it will check it against what you've given it, a specification for a solid product. When you're prompting it, when you're given instructions at the beginning, you need to say what you expect, because otherwise it doesn't know what to work towards. So it's going to check against that and then correct itself, then check again, correct itself, check again, correct itself until it's happy to pass it up to you. And then it's going to continuously do that. You get to set how many cycles, you get to set how much effort. This is when we get into more complicated tasks, but basically this no longer requires engineering. This requires just using a model like ChatGPT 5.5. It does all of this automatically for you without you having to be an agentic engineer. I want to have a look at, I've lost it. It's on my other laptop. I'll pull it up. My favorite picture. Here it is. So we've got the new benchmarks from ChatGPT. They are the best. It's the best at doing this. It's the best at doing that. This is my favorite chart when it comes to benchmarks. Every single model out there, they create their own benchmarks. They show that their new model, 5.5, Opus 4.7, whatever it is the best. Obviously, it's going to be the best, otherwise they're not going to release it. And then they show everyone else's stinky models, their smelly models, their bad models at being terrible. So benchmarks are always like this. We can fairly safely ignore the benchmarks now. We expect all benchmarks to be better than the previous models. Otherwise, they're not going to release it because the marketing impact of that is too big. This is worsened by the fact that they can train and run benchmark tests with the benchmark criteria in mind. So you can train for that. You can practice for the test, basically. And even worse, lots of them have their own internal benchmarks. So they set up the quiz And then they set their model on doing well at the quiz. And unsurprisingly, it does very well at the quiz. So we are going to ignore the benchmarks for the most part. It's good across the board. Actually, let's look at artificial analysis and see what they're saying. So they're saying it's the best at intelligence. It is not the best at speed. And it is also quite expensive. Not that unusual. The newest model is always the most expensive. But they're saying it is smarter than Opus 4.7. Again, benchmarks. We can't necessarily trust these. You have to use it yourself. You have to use it in your tasks and see if it does a good job for you. From my basic testing overnight and this morning, I've found it is very good at working through tasks. You can throw a huge amount of stuff at it and it will be able to work all of that out for you. Because it has the additional tooling, it's able to create images, connect to Notion, to Google Drive, it's able to pull things in. It does a very good job. Previously, I primarily used things like Claude Code and Codex, where I require a lot of context. I require it to be able to pull from multiple sources. Previously, I used Codex and Claude Code. I found that GPT 5.5 can do this really well out of the box, inside of ChatGPT. I'll show you a very quick example. Putting together this presentation this morning, I usually use Notebook LM, but I'll show you how I put together this presentation. So I pulled in a few YouTube videos that are doing quite well on this, and then I gave a bunch of notes myself. Let me scroll through all of that. There we go. Then I gave a bunch of notes. It gave me a basic outline, which did the job. I then worked back and forward with the outline saying, let's change this, let's move things around. It was able to pull tweets from Twitter, which is something that models are generally not very good at. It was still a little bit fiddly, so Grok is obviously better at that, but ChatGPT did a good job. And then I tested it on something new based on Images 2.0, which is their new image model. I said, okay, go ahead and make the slides for me. See all of this prep. So this was pulling from 10 different sources, multiple YouTube videos, multiple tweets, my own commentary, which I gave via voice note. It was able to work with all of this and deal with this absolutely no problem. Then it made these slides and they're fine. So this is an example of tooling. It was able to create a slide deck off the back of all of the work that we had done. It put my image into it. It did that automatically. That is something that Notebook LM cannot do. I was quite impressed with that. Very good little slide deck. I was impressed. I was extremely impressed. I need to do more testing, but this is normally something I would do in a more complicated harness, but I did it directly in chat and it worked. It worked a treat. So I think that's probably the thing that people haven't realized quite yet, because they're mainly focusing on the benchmarks. They're mainly focusing on the raw intelligence of it, but that is increasingly unimportant. I want to look at, where is he? Sam's. There we go. Sam Altman's tweet. It's a bit of a weird one. He's been trigger happy on Twitter recently. But this tweet reads to me like an attack on Anthropic. Let's quickly go through it. So he says, we believe in iterative deployment. Although GPT 5.5 is already a smart model, we expect rapid improvements. Iterative deployment is a big part of our safety strategy. We believe the world will be best equipped to win at a team sport of AI resilience this way. Basically, they're going to continue to update the model. So it's not all about 5.5 to 5.6 or 5.6 to 6. It is about making those constant changes all of the time. That's fair. It's also a good way to prepare people for if they think 5.5 is not good. I'm seeing a lot of people immediately are like, it's stupid. It can't do the strawberry test and it can't do the should I take my car to the car wash test, etc. So this first paragraph here is tamping down people's expectations. But here's the interesting one. We believe in democratization. We want people to be able to use lots of AI. We aim to have the most efficient models, the most efficient inference stacks, and the most compute. This is a direct attack on Anthropic. Anthropic were caught earlier in the week doing testing on removing Claude Code from the $20 a month plan. Somebody screenshotted it. The Anthropic went into crisis management mode and they're like, oh yeah, it was just a test. We're just seeing we're not actually rolling this out. It's just a test with 2% of our new users. Obviously, if they're testing that, that is something they want to do. They want to remove Claude Code from the $20 a month plan. OpenAI and ChatGPT, especially the Codex team, they fired back and said, we want to make sure that you all have access. So we make Codex, their equivalent to Claude Code, available on these $0 a month plan. We make it available on the $20 a month plan. Oh, we've reset all of your limits in Codex so you can use it as much as you want. They are fighting over this coding marketplace now, and Anthropic are increasingly becoming the model for the elite, people who can pay a lot of money. If you're not spending $100 or $200 a month minimum, you're not going to be able to use Claude Code. Realistically, they want you on the API, so you're paying per usage. That's where they make 80% of their money. So that's where they want you. What OpenAI and ChatGPT are saying is, no. This is important. We want you all to have access to these tools. Now, you can read this as cynical, as them just trying to take market share away from Anthropic, but I think their actions back up what they're saying. Codex is much more generous with usage. ChatGPT is much more generous with usage, and they have a much larger user base. They have 900 million plus users, nearly 1 billion people using ChatGPT. Most of them are free. Anthropic has a much smaller user base and incredibly tight limits on the free plan. Anthropic does not want free users because they cost them money. They're a cost center. They make no money from free users. So I think ChatGPT's actions and their current direction backs this up. I know people are going to push back and say, well, of course he's going to say this. But I think the way they're aligned is correct. We want our users to have access to the best technology and for everyone to have equal opportunity. We've been tracking cybersecurity as a preparedness category for a long time and have built mitigations we believe in that enable us to make capable models more broadly available. Again, this is an attack on Anthropic. Anthropic have a even better model called Mythos, which they have said, oh, it's too powerful, we can't release it. It has been found that they gave it to the US government. So the US government has access to it, as do select companies under Project Glasswing. So it's been held by these elites. Whereas OpenAI is saying, no, actually, these tools should be widely available. Now, obviously, this is a much larger debate. Should tools that can potentially go through cybersecurity be widely available? But OpenAI are saying we are the AI of the people. We are the more democratic company here, whereas Anthropic are about the elites. They're about supporting governments. So this whole paragraph is basically a FU to Anthropic, which I love. I love a little bit of competition. And then the third paragraph, this is the one that people are focusing on. It starts, we love you and we want you to win. We want to be a platform for every company, scientist, entrepreneur, and person. My whole career has largely been about the magic of startups, and I think that we're about to see that magic at hyperscale. So most people are focusing on this, the we love you and we want you to win. Now, I think with good reason. When the CEO of a multi-billionaire company tells you that he loves you, it's a little bit dystopian. Here we go. Point 3, we love you from $1 billion company is giving marketing email energy. Somebody bringing up the Epstein Foundation. That bit is backfiring. The most interesting part here is paragraph 2, which is the direct pushback on Anthropic, basically saying, hey, Anthropic, we don't like the way you're doing this. We're going to go wider. We're going to give the tools to the people, and we're going to do this for the people rather than for the elites. That's a really strong positioning for OpenAI moving forward. These are the 3 main pushes of their launch strategy. It's for normal people in normal work. It is not just for elites. It is not just for coders. This is for everybody. Now, the really important point here is not the model. Sam says, we believe in iterative deployment. He's basically playing down the importance of the model itself, because people will argue about this. They'll be like, is 4.7 better than 5.5? Or, oh, is 5.4 better than 5.5? It doesn't matter. These are such minor issues that we can squabble about for a couple of weeks, and then a new model will come out that will be better than everything else, and then we'll start squabbling about the next level of the model. It does not matter. That is noise. What is important is what you connect your model to. Increasingly, the models are becoming so good that the raw intelligence is not that important. I saw a really good quote. You don't need Hemingway to write marketing copy for you. If you have an AI that is capable of Hemingway level writing, that is overkill for most tasks. If you're writing an email to your HR manager, you don't need that much raw intelligence. But increasingly, because we've already got that much raw intelligence in all of our base models, it's what we attach them to and what we do with the models that matters. So it is about the harness. So the harness is everything that's bundled within this circle. The model sits at the middle, so GPT-5.5, Opus 4.7, but the harness has everything else. So it's going to have the ability to use tools, to be able to connect to Google Drive, to be able to connect to anything else in your software system. It's going to have memory, and it's going to be able to remember across different tasks and compile a larger memory of the things that you do on a day-to-day basis. Have the ability to iterate and do repetitive work. and check its own work and see if it's good enough. You might even have multiple agents talking to each other. You might have heard of the idea of a council of agents. You have multiple agents, they all come up with different ideas, and then you have one that judges their ideas, and then that will be used in the final deployment. You're also going to have permissions, connections to databases, authorizations to use different services. All of that sits within the harness. The harness decides how all of this is used. That's much more complicated than the model itself. So what we're seeing increasingly is you can have a great model, but if you have a weak harness, it does not matter. I think Google in particular have this problem right now. Google Gemini Pro on the API is a good model. It is a very intelligent model. However, it's not connected to a good harness. This is why nobody uses Gemini for coding, because it isn't wrapped up in this set of tools. It's not wrapped up in this set of other components which allow it to do work for us. This is why Gemini is behind at the moment. If you have a model with a great harness, like Claude Code, you can do a lot of work. When you combine that with a really good model, like Claude Opus 4.6, Claude Opus 4.7, that's when you can do amazing things. So increasingly, the model is not the thing. The model is something you have to have. That's the base minimum, but it's about what you wrap around this. That is what matters. The best harnesses right now are Claude Code, which is why you have heard people talking about Claude Code non-stop for the last 6 months, and increasingly ChatGPT Codex. That is their version of Claude Code. That is their agentic harness. We also have OpenClaw, which now belongs to, it does not belong, but they are working with OpenAI, which is similar to this. So this is the new battleground. It is not about the models. It is about what you can do with the models, what you connect your models with. Having a good model like Gemini is no longer enough if you have a crappy harness. This brings us to what they're doing with OpenClaw. Back in March, everybody started saying Claude Code is getting dumb. What's going on with Claude Code? It's not like what you're talking out your ass is as smart as it's ever been. In fact, here's a new model, or here's a new release, co-work dispatch or something like that. So they kept releasing stuff, absolutely insane release schedule, including models, higher context windows. But lots of people were saying, it still seems dumb. I'm pretty sure it's got dumber. It used to be amazing back in January and February, and now it's stupid. It's getting things wrong. Absolutely not. Turns out they were right. So they have put out a statement, basically, saying, over the past month, some of you reported Claude Code's quality had slipped. We investigated and published a post-mortem. This was on the 3 issues we'd found. Basically, on March the 4th, we changed Claude Code's default reasoning effort from high to medium to reduce the very long latency, the speed to respond, enough to make the UI appear frozen. Some users were seeing in high mode. This was the wrong trade-off. So we reverted this change on April the 7th after users told us they preferred to default to higher intelligences. That's not a bug. For a whole month, the whole month of March, they reduced Claude Code's default reasoning from high to medium. They made it dumber. That's not a fuck up. They meant to do that. Now they've admitted and said, yeah, we made it dumber. This impacted Sonnet 4.6 and Opus 4.6. So in the presentation, I talked about this, how there's a conspiracy going around, which was Opus 4.6 used to be really smart. Then they made it dumber, and then they released Opus 4.7, which is basically Opus 4.6 before it got dumb. That's the conspiracy that's been going around. This suggests there's something to that. For the whole month, from March 4th to April 7th, they had reduced the default from high to medium in Opus 4.6. They'd made it dumber, basically. Because of this, they've said, oh, we've reset all your limits. They have reset everyone's limits on Claude Code, which is good. Mine reset anyway, so I don't think I get any benefit from that. This is the example of what happens when your harness goes wrong. This is a problem in Claude Code, the harness. Not in Claude, the model, but in Claude Code, the harness, very specifically. And it's lost some goodwill. Again, the harness is the new battleground, not the model. And speaking of harnesses, they are pushing in OpenAI for tighter integration with OpenClaw. So you can already use your ChatGPT subscription with OpenClaw. That's amazing. Anthropic and Claude, they cut off usage. They're like, nope, you cannot use Claude inside of OpenClaw unless you pay for the API. If you've ever used the Anthropic API, it is eye-wateringly expensive. It's very good, but it's expensive. So they didn't want people running roughshod through their subscriptions with OpenClaw. I understand the reasoning, but it was still a bit of a blow, especially because they did it on Easter Friday. So people were on holiday and they're like, you can't use it anymore, and they cut it, which was bad timing and not good optics on Anthropic's point. So OpenAI stepped into the gap and they basically said, no, go nuts. If you have a ChatGPT subscription, connect it to your OpenClaw, use your usage from your subscription, your $20, your $100 a month, whatever it is you have on OpenClaw. And they are working hard with Peter to make OpenClaw models an ecosystem the obvious way to enjoy your claw. Lots of people since the Anthropic lockdown on Anthropic usage inside OpenClaw moved to things like Minimax or Chinese models. What OpenAI is saying is like, no, we want you to be using ChatGPT models inside of OpenClaw, which is great. It's exciting to have a Western company basically step up and say, no, we're here for you. We're happy for you to use it. So that's cool. And it aligns with this idea of democratization. And no, they're not paying me. And you should know that for months and months and months, I've been bigging up Claude. But I think Anthropic have made some bad moves in the last few weeks. They are working on tighter integration. This is Pash. He's at Codex. I'm not sure his exact role. He says, I've embarked on a new sprint, so a new project. My mission is to make OpenAI models feel magical in OpenClaw in the next few weeks. Diving in today, I noticed a bug when you configure OpenClaw to use the Codex harness with OpenAI models. Auth was broken and the system was silently falling back to the Pi harness, so nobody knew it was broken. Okay, that's a pretty big problem. Thank you for finding that. He's fixed that already. Before, the agent didn't feel magical or proactive, which it should. It did the exact same shallow loop every heartbeat, read the heartbeat, checked Discord, saw nothing, said heartbeat. It ignored the rest of its instructions. Sometimes it would even reason about doing work and then just not do it, basically. After full agent loops, it reads its workspace, interprets the entire checklist, inspects the repo, makes real edits, tries to verify them, and gives an honest status report. Later heartbeats show continuity. It doesn't repeat work. It picks up where it left off. The heartbeat functionality core to OpenClaw was broken. They are working on making OpenAI models, so GPT models, work better with OpenClaw and become the default. That is their plan. So harnesses, super important. Choose your harness depending on what work you are doing. If you just want to ask a quick question, get a quick clarification, use AI for information retrieval, or to have a chat to clear up your thoughts, use the chatbot. Use ChatGPT, use Claude. On your phone, in the browser, doesn't really matter. Absolutely fine. If you want to do something more complex, creating artifacts, managing files, researching, organizing messy data, you can use Codex, you can use Claude Code. Increasingly, you can use GPT-5.5 because it's going to be able to do that for you directly in the chatbot. If you want to do deep coding workflows inside of the Anthropic ecosystem, that's going to be Claude Code. So if you want to have access to Claude Code, Claude Cowork, Claude models, if you want to use the Claude managed agents cloud, then obviously you're going to have to do everything through Anthropic. But Claude Code is not the only game in town now for agentic coding and agentic tasks. Codex is very good. So this is where we are right now. The model is less important. The chatbot is less important. It is what we do with that model, what we connect it to, what tools we connect it to, what harnesses we put it in, and how we allow it to proactively work for us and to work while we are sleeping. If you are an entrepreneur or starting a business, this is the dream. It allows you to have a team of people who are working for you whilst you're sleeping, whilst you're doing other things. And it allows you to suddenly become, I can't even quantify how much more productive I am, but many multiples time more productive because you've learned how to use these tools. So it's highly recommended that you get started with them. Based on the release, GPT 5.5, I'd say start with Codex because that is free. It's free on the GPT plan, or you can use it on a $20 a month plan. Claude Code is more tight with the limits, so that's going to be an issue. So Codex, I think, is probably the starting point, at least right now in April 2026. This will change. Go ahead and try the 5.5 model, but more importantly, try the different harnesses. Put it into OpenClaw, put it into Codex, see what it can do for you there. I think that's where it really matters, and that's going to take a little bit longer for us to work out whether or not this is a good model or not. Thank you so much, everybody. I'm going to finish up for today because it's been 1 hour. Thank you. And if you are not subscribed, come across to aiwithkyle.com. You can subscribe to the newsletter and you'll also get the edited, cleaned up versions of the daily live streams that I do. Here's one, for example. You can see the cleaner YouTube plus the actual newsletter, which includes all of the tweets that I refer to, so you can find them yourself, any additional resources, my take, any kind of guides and graphics, they're all in here. So if you want to keep up to date with what's going on in AI, hopefully this is a useful resource. This is available on aiwithkyle.com. Thank you so much, everybody. Bye, guys.